So Walter said it does heavy duty commercial operation.
You got some mail, John.
Huh?
You got some mail.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Open that mail. Open that mail. How many seconds you got in there?
30.
30 seconds.
No, 29 minutes.
All right, let's watch them open and I'll continue.
Who's it from, John?
Telephone conversations.
Want me to read it out loud to you? I'll read it out loud to you if you like.
Huh?
Want me to read it out loud to you?
No. Here.
You open the next one and I'll read this one.
From the VA.
I don't know what the hell I'm trying to do.
Here, I'll read it to you. Here you go. Ready?
What?
You have been scheduled for the following telephone appointment. Do not report to any clinic. Your nurse will call you at the following scheduled time. Monday, June 24th, 2024, 10
June
a.m.
24th?
June 24th, 2024, 10 a.m. Phone, telephone appointment, and then she lists her phone number. Do not physically report to the clinic for this appointment. We are making this a telephone call as a follow-up. You have a pen and paper handy so that when you can write down any important information we give you. Remember, your nurse will be calling you. Please do not call or report to the clinic. Please notify us as soon as possible if you're not available for this appointment. You may be reachable by this appointment connecting the telephone number listed above.
Baptist Medical Center.
So this, well, before you go on to that, this one we'll put in your office. This is, they want to have a conference with you on June 24th at 10 a.m. You want to give me that? I'll read that too.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at it.
All right, take your time. Absorb it.
Initial hospital inpatient at Baptist Medical Center.
You were never at Baptist.
No, what the hell are they talking about?
I don't know.
$167.
I'll call on your behalf. You
Huh?
were never in a Baptist Medical Center. You were in Flagler.
No, I'm not gonna read all that shit tonight.
Let me take a look. I'll give you a summary.
Here.
Let me take a look, I'll give you a summary. But this one here, June 24th, 10 a.m.
What?
We'll save this one, it's June 24th, 10 a.m. We'll put it up on your wall.
It's not a bill.
Ah, shit.
Baptist Medical Center. Initial inpatient. You were never in Jacksonville. You were never in the hospital in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, you better call them up tomorrow.
I will.
Find out what the hell they're doing. What are they doing?
Well, I'll call them up, but the good news is you don't owe a dime.
Huh?
You don't owe a dime, that's the good news. You got a zero balance. But
And
you,
what?
You don't, they sent you this bill, but you don't owe a dime.
For what?
They said you were at Baptist Medical Center on Sunbeam Road in Jacksonville, Florida.
No.
You never went to Sunbeam Road in Jacksonville, Florida. That's the big hospital that goes over the bridge in Jacksonville. It's a great big one. It's in downtown.
I think I was there.
Huh?
I think I was there.
Well, when?
I went with Mary.
Well, either way, you don't owe anything, so there's nothing to worry about. All right, let's file this, please, and move on.
You want to start over again? Or just-
No, I'm gonna keep up where I was. Is there still money?
Okay, no, yeah, it's still running.
Well, call them up tomorrow what the hell they're talking about at Baptist.
I will. We're still pulling the detail along the riverbank, and the rest of the squad doubled up on their guard duty. The kitchen furnished us with some hot chow, and Post brought it up several Marmite cans. It was fried chicken.
Mermite.
Say that?
Mermite.
Say it again.
Mermite.
Mermite. All right? Mermite.
What's Marmite?
What's Mermite?
Heavy plastic
Okay.
10-gallon cans.
Post brought it up in several Mermite cans. It was fried chicken, mashed potatoes, apple pie, everything I presume hand-picked locally. I lay down after chow, but too excited about the patrol and could not sleep. I thought about being in the company of the elite outfit like Rangers. I even conjured up that I'd be transferred to the 2nd Ranger Battalion when we returned from patrol. But like everything else I thought about, it was a mere supposition, a fanciful and idealized fabrication. As I drifted in and out of sleep, half sleep, I saw visions of Renee and how far and distant she appeared. It was almost 2 weeks since I saw her last, and the pain and distress of our departure were still with me. I was thankful we were doing so much moving about, which took my mind off of her. Even so, every once in a while, she would flash back in my memory, and I would become nostalgic and yearn to see and hold her. My mind flipped back to the patrol night and the Rangers. I only hoped that we did not foul up and do something stupid under pressure. I had confidence that Calhoun, Eisler, and Shepard looked to me for leadership, and it was up to me to keep them loose and on their toes. I changed my socks and put on an additional long sleeve shirt.
What time of year is it?
Probably around January. I changed my socks and put on a long sleeve undershirt, as we're wearing only fatigues and field jackets. I told the others to dress warmly, but I did not overburden themselves with too much clothing. Suddenly, my flashback to a wool knit sweater I had left at Renee's house and how she looked in it when I saw her the next day. Finally, at 20:45 hours, we started for the CP, joking about the real good deal our way. Calhoun had all figured out, so we thought. Our squad catching up with all the lush details because you have been goofing off in a warm, soft hospital for a while, he declared. I smiled at him and told him he was probably right. We reached the CP. The major and his men were already there. They were all young and looked as if they pretty much take care of themselves. They sent a shiver down my back. I was proud to be in their midst. They all wore fatigues, field jackets, and wool knit caps. Their faces were smeared with camouflage cream, and they wore no rank on their clothing. Hello. Have a good evening. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Why would they wear no rank on their clothing?
Huh?
Why would they wear no rank on their clothing?
To what?
You said they did not wear any rank on their clothing.
No.
Why?
Not on their helmet field.
Why?
Oh, they didn't want to go where the leaders.
Eisler and Calhoun picked a light 30 and Shepard grabbed 2 boxes of ammo. As I looked over the 30, the major came up to me and said, "This is for you, Sergeant." I looked in amazement. It was a 12-gauge pump shotgun.
I see that, yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell us about this 12-gauge pump shotgun.
I took it to the firing range a couple days later. It's got a real kick to it.
Was it a sawed-off shotgun?
Yeah, it splattered.
So it was with buckshot.
Yeah.
So why did he give you this 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun?
Oh. We're going to probably go with tight infighting.
Why?
We're going in tight infighting.
Okay. It looked in amazement. It was a 12-gauge pump shotgun, cut down to about 2 feet and much lighter than my M1. The major winked and smiled. We got down to the riverbank. And into 2 rubber rafts. The water was cold and the current was much swifter. The water was cold and the current was much swifter than I remembered when we crossed before. As I paddled across the river, all eyes were scanning the opposite bank for movement. We reached each bank in short order, concealed the rafts in the brush, noting a good reference point to come back to. The Rangers immediately filed out in the snow, methodical walk. We were positioned in the center of the column and did pretty much what they did. The branches on the trees were handed to the next man. As we passed, everyone watched where we stepped. Every so often, we'd stop and crouch down, each man alternately facing in the opposite direction. When the go-ahead was signaled, we got up quietly and moved cautiously forward. This went on for several miles, with the major taking us in a wide arc, heading east and north. There were two lead scouts about 20 yards ahead of us from time to time, and we would wait until they checked ahead. One of the scouts would fall back and confirm with the major, and then resume his forward position. We had not encountered anything, and I figured we had been out about for 2 hours. Almost time to turn back. We were told to set up the gun up the fire to our front, but not to open up until we were ordered to do so. One of the scouts had hurried back and was talking with the major. He had found something, and it seemed it was something to do with obtaining a prisoner. The rest of the Rangers melted into the blackness ahead of us and were left alone. I crouched near the gun, looking from side to side, fearful of an ambush. Suddenly some of the Rangers were back and told us to get ready to fire. Shortly thereafter, several more came up upon us. Then seemed like the rest of them came out of the darkness. I then saw the major and two Rangers on each side of a German officer, his hands bound before him and a piece of tape over his mouth. The major stopped beside me and signaled for us to open fire. I slapped Calhoun on the shoulder, and he immediately opened fire, traversing right and then left. The Rangers began lobbing hand grenades in a wide arc to our front. Flares were popping up all around to our front, and I could see many of the Germans advancing in our position. The major was behind our gun, giving fire directions to one of the artillery batteries. Shortly thereafter was the familiar sound of large shells whistling overhead, landing 50 yards to our front. They were the 105s from the screams of agony I was hearing to the front. They were on target. The major tapped me on the shoulder, signaling me to pull the gun out and fall back. I nudged Calhoun and signaled him to cease fire and pulled back. Instead of Calhoun reaching for the receiver to disengage it from the tripod with a protective shield on the barrel, it was hot enough from the constant fire to give him a very severe burn on his right hand. So if you grab that barrel,
It's hot.
red hot,
Yeah.
and that's why you have the water to cool it, correct?
Well, and it still gets hot. You just fire fast enough.
As he tried to get his hand released from the red barrel, his skin had melted on the metal. He became distracted. What did he see? What he did not see was a German soldier fast approaching him on his left side. I barely got a glimpse of him as he moved swiftly out of the darkness. He had his bayonet knife lifted to plunge it into Eisler in another moment. I raised my shotgun to my side and fired at the approaching figure. The blast hit him sideways, and I was horrified as I
You got the shotgun?
Yeah. The blast hit him sideways, and I was horrified as I saw his right hip and leg tear away from his upper torso,
Yeah.
severed at the crotch. He fell in a heap before Eisler. His leg and hip were several feet away. I was brought out of my shock and dismay by the major's voice. "Let's get the hell out of here." I realized Eisler was in great pain from the burn he received. I jammed his burned hand into his field jacket as I improvised a sling. I told him to move out. I picked up the receiver using my wool knit cap as a pad and filed behind Eisler. Our 105s were saturating the forward area with smoke and air bursts. And we started to receive some enemy mortar fire. I kept prodding Eisler forward, and I could see he was in much pain. I hoped he would not go into shock. I lost touch with Calhoun and Shepard. Presumably they were up ahead and safe. 2 Rangers stayed close to us so we would not get separated, as our pace slowed somewhat on the account of Eisler. The enemy mortar fire ceased, and I could only hear the landing of the 105s as they continued the barrage over the country escape. We finally reached the riverbank, and the major and several Rangers were waiting for us. Their other raft had taken across the river, and I could barely see it in midstream. There were several muffled explosions coming from the direction we had just left. The Rangers had set timed charges all around the German encampment, and this was what we were hearing now. I aided Eisler into the raft, and I could see that he was about ready to go into shock. The major quickly administered morphine injection into his arm and put a bandage around his burned hand. As I held the receiver, I could feel patches of his burnt skin welded to its outer casing. Did they have to send him to Paris to get for his wounds?
Yeah.
Did he ever come back?
No, we probably got to the States.
It was that bad, huh?
Paris, England, and then States.
We reached the opposite bank, and there were 2 minutes with a stretcher waiting to take Eisler to the aid station. He was barely conscious. I told him that I would see him in a short while. The major thanked us for our effort, support, and hoped Eisler would come out all right. He also said that he would request us the next time he was in the area. He told me to keep the gun, but I declined, saying that it was against Geneva Convention. Why was it against Geneva Convention?
What?
Why was it keeping the shotgun against Geneva Convention?
That's correction.
Why was keeping the shotgun against the Geneva Convention?
Again?
Here, I'll read it back to you.
The major was gonna give you that shotgun, John.
I got the shotgun.
He told me to keep the gun, but I declined, saying that it was against the Geneva Convention, and besides, it was not a government issue. So it wasn't a government-issued gun?
No,
So you weren't allowed to keep it?
no.
Okay. All right, now I understand. The real reason I was reluctant to keep the shotgun was for its destructive havoc it created. I can still see the picture of the hapless German as he looked when we got hit and his members went flying apart. Before he left, the major told me he would work on getting those stripes. So here we go. The 6th and 7th time in the book that they said they would get you your damn stripes, and your stripes never came.
No, no.
Did you ever question him after the war?
No, it was hopeless then. I felt.
I believe he would have, and he had not gotten killed in an ambush several nights later. So he was going to get your sergeant stripes and make it a point to, but he got killed.
Yeah.
I was saddened to hear of it and considered him a fine officer and a man. We found out later that Isa was evacuated to the UK for extensive skin grafting and was there possibly that might lose part of his hand. There was also a probability that he would be discharged from the service. We never heard any more of him, and I often wonder how he finally made out. So what do you think finally happened to
He
him?
got discharged.
That was it, right?
Yeah.
The
He's
Ger-
out of it.
What?
He was out of it.
Okay. The German officer the Rangers captured was only in the area for one night, briefing his command in the eventual Rhine crossing by the Allies. He was captured with invaluable information on his person, which aided the intelligence in their determination for their crossing.
What was that part about again? A German was caught?
Yeah, that's what the two Rangers went in to catch this German officer. And they caught him and they got a lot of good information from him.
Okay.
Several days later, based on the information they obtained from the captured German officer, the Allies made the crossing on the Rhine River. It was through the valiant efforts of the people like the Rangers who went on original patrol that made the Rhine crossing possible. Also, the expertise and the knowledge of Major Mandron, now deceased. So Major Mandron was going to get you the stripes, but later he got killed, now deceased, whose leadership inspired who came into contact with him. These were the unsung heroes, unpretentious and unassuming, who did their job unflinchingly, seeking
Yeah,
no
but here's the irony. They gave the mail clerk a second lieutenant, battlefield commission, and he sat in the mail office. How do you figure?
because he had an uncle, correct?
Huh?
Because he had an uncle? Did you say an uncle in upper echelon?
No, that was Larson. That was Larson.
So why would he get position if he was a mail clerk?
That's how they do. That's how they do it. He was a big suckhole.
So he was a suckhole.
Yeah.
Did he ever see any active duty?
Never went in. Never went in.
Who did their job unflinchingly to seek no reward, but to do the best that they were asked of. Our division supported a river crossing on 30th and 79th Infantry Division in the vicinity of Orgesai. We set up our guns on the high ground along the river and fired over 30,000 rounds before the 1st and 2nd platoons of H Company. Division artillery fired over 27,000 rounds during the preparation, which participated in by over 52 artillery batteries throughout the sector. After the bridges were established across the river,
Hang on one second. Did you get debriefed on this? How did you know there were 30,000 and 27,000 rounds? Did they tell you about it afterwards?
Yeah, you got a briefing. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you knew you were doing it. You were right there doing it.
after the bridges were established across the river, how were the bridges built?
Engineers built it in probably 1 day.
And how long were the bridges?
Some of the bridges were almost a mile long.
How would you build a bridge? Was it a floating bridge?
It was a floating bridge, yeah.
And what was it made out of?
It was made out of plywood, steel, and what the hell was the other thing? Iron.
And that was strong enough for the tanks to cross?
Yeah.
That must have been one hell
And
of
they'd put it up in a half a day.
that must have been one hell of a
Those are the engineers, Army engineers.
Unbelievable. And then once all the equipment got on the other side, was that bridge torn down?
Was it torn down?
Yeah, after.
No, they used it during the war and they left it up for a while.
Okay.
It might be still there.
After the bridges were established across the river, the 291st assumed responsibility for the security of the L and the North bridges. We pulled this duty for several days, and by 29th March, division completed